All right, we are right at 7 o'clock, so I'll call tonight's city council meeting to order. Karen, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Hausnick?
Here.
Councilmember Byström?
Here.
Councilmember Munson?
Here.
Councilmember Valento?
Here.
And Mayor Bain.
Here. Invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, we have an agenda before you for consideration this evening. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our agenda is approved. Our next item this evening is open forum. Open forum is any interested party's opportunity to address council on any topic of your choosing. And looks like we have one signed up for open forum, and Don Ship. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Donald E. Ship. I live at 27049 Flintwood Circle, Wyoming, Minnesota. My wife and I have a ground lease contract at the airport for the purposes of operating a private hangar. We rent a lot. For 4 years, the city of Forest Lake sent us bills for the runway paving project. The city finally stopped because it knew that those charges were a violation of our contracts. The city claimed that those that hadn't paid for those previous years still owed. That is not true. We never owed. Our contracts have been reviewed by multiple attorneys, including the legal staff at the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. A 90% state grant has nothing to do with leaseholders at our airport. Minnesota cities either contribute their 10% to receive 9 times that amount in return, or they decline the offer. Any attempt to bill hangar owners for non-contractual items is wrong. In addition, in my case, the city threatened to kick me off the airport. Here is the threatening letter from then City Administrator Aaron Parrish. In my attempt to resolve the matter in a meeting between Donald L. Ship, Aaron Parrish, and myself, Aaron Parrish said this to me, I'm quoting, "I know that there is no language in your contract to charge you for a runway paving project. The city council wanted it. The airport commission passed it. I had a council meeting in about 90 minutes. The best thing that I could come up with was to call it rent," unquote. In 2021, I met with current city administrator Patrick Casey, and I advised him that we needed to set up arbitration to resolve the issue. Very shortly after that meeting with Mr. Casey, I received a revised invoice from the city of Forest Lake. Someone had paid for most of my outstanding contract bill. City employee Abby Ristow claimed that she couldn't remember who paid my bill. After 2 data practice requests, I finally found out that Sam Husnick Construction paid for most of my bill. I recommend that you return that money to Sam Husnick. Every year since 2017, the city of Forest Lake has received official notice from a letter written by an attorney that it has breached the ground leases at the airport. Just like our state highway system is impressive, our state airport system is also impressive. As per the director of MnDOT Aeronautics, Forest Lake receives 75% of its maintenance costs paid for by the state. The city has received millions of dollars of funding from the state for the airport. Please respect our contracts and refund to us what was charged improperly. I will email all this information to the Forest Lake Times and all city council members. I look forward to addressing the city council next month to detail other airport matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ship. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in open forum this evening? Karen, anybody online?
There's no one.
All right, we'll close open forum and bring the meeting back to council. Council, before you, next is consent agenda items 6A through 6G. I'll entertain either a motion or any changes. So moved.
Oh, good, yeah,
We have a motion from Councilmember Byström. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Husnick, motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to our regular agenda. For council's consideration, 7A, Resolution 523-2201, Master Partnership Contract with Minnesota Department of Transportation. And Ryan, I believe you're walking us through this.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. In front of you is a renewal of our existing master partnership contract with MnDOT. Basically, in the past, what we've utilized this contract is with MnDOT to utilize them on materials testing of state aid and federal aid projects. So with those projects, we're required to do plant inspections for any bituminous or concrete being placed that day at the plant. And instead of hiring a consultant to go there and stay there those hours when we specifically need those inspections done, MnDOT already has representatives there that are certified because of all the other state jobs that are coming out of a plant that day. So it's just an efficient way to, and much cheaper way to execute material testing requirements on the state aid projects and federal aid projects. There's other contractual things we could utilize this agreement for, but historically, since we've been binded with this agreement in the past, we have not pursued any of those other options, basically just using it as a materials testing and a payment conduit with the state of Minnesota and the city of Forest Lake. So it's our request that the city council renew the agreement that expires on June 30th, 2022. I believe it goes out to June 30th, 2027.
Ryan, and Ryan, just to confirm, there's an expiring agreement. Is the expiring agreement similar terms of duration? Is this
Nope.
kind of a common duration for this agreement?
Very similar.
Council, any questions on this one for Ryan? Me either. I'll entertain a motion if anyone is ready. The resolution is on page 74 of our packet.
Madam Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 05-23-22-01, a resolution entering into master partnership contract with Minnesota Department of Transportation and authorizing the mayor and city administrator to sign said contract.
I'll second.
A motion from Councilmember Munson and a second from Councilmember Valento. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Oppose? And
Sorry.
motion carries. Nope, okay. All right, next item 7B is a resolution for council's consideration for a pumper tender replacement purchase. And Chief Newman.
Mayor, members of the council, up for consideration is a resolution to purchase a replacement for engine 2, which was purchased in 1996. It's a 2,500 gallon pumper tender. Back in 1996, we bought two identical pumper tenders. One was housed at Columbus, one was housed in Forest Lake. Back in 2020, we did replace engine 3 with a new pumper tender. And instead of purchasing or requesting to purchase those items at the same time, we wanted to stagger those vehicles out. One, just because of cost of the vehicle, and number two, to make sure that if there was issues with building or electrical issues or something like that, we didn't get two lemons at the same time. That's what happened with the first purchases that we had back in 1996. So this was brought in front of the Joint Fire Board for consideration, and then it was approved unanimously at the Joint Fire Board, and then it was brought in front of Columbus City Council on May 11th, and that was a unanimous vote as well. We're looking to purchase the vehicles through Rosenbauer, which is a fire truck manufacturer located in Wyoming. It would be purchased through the HGAC buy, which is a Houston Galveston area council. It's a buying consortium. This would be the third truck that we purchased through that buying consortium. When we first looked at doing this, we ran that through the city attorney to make sure that that met all the requirements for the competitive bidding procurement process, in which it did. to lay out cost of the vehicle. The quote came in at $809,952. Payment is in two processes. One is the first payment is for the cabin chassis when that's built. And then the second payment comes when the fire truck's completely built out. It has been our practice in the past that when the cabin chassis is completed, that we just pay for that at that time. Rosenbauer is providing a discount of $13,783 if we continue on with that process of paying that cabin chassis when it's built. And so the total price for the vehicle would be $796,168. To give you some perspective, or actually, I'll back up. The cabin chassis delivery would be 2023, and then expectation on the truck being completed would be January, February 2024. So currently, they're a little over 600 days for delivery time. When we purchased engine 3, that was at a cost of $685,729. So we're looking at 7.4% increase over that last vehicle. They're looking at price increases at the end of this month, and so if we move into after 5/31 for a purchase, it goes up another 7% or $56,696. So as we've seen with just about anything, large equipment or vehicles, substantial increases in the last year.
Anything further for us?
Yep, any questions?
Perfect, good. Go ahead.
Chief, did we, I believe you already answered my question. This is in budget, right? Because we've been planning for this. Did we factor in that 7.4% increase?
We did.
Okay.
When engine 3 originally cost, the last vehicle that we purchased, and this is identical to that vehicle, was $685,729. So in July of last year, when we prepped the budgets, I had contacted Rosenbauer and asked for, the increased cost based on what their expectation of cost would be. But due to staffing shortages, the cost of aluminum, electric wiring and harnesses and everything that goes into a fire truck, their costs have far exceeded what they thought the cost increase was gonna be. So 7.4%, it's still high, but boy, we've seen a lot of other things in equipment costs that are in that 20-30%.
If this gets approved tonight and you're able to take action on the purchase agreement, does that lock us in for pricing throughout the duration until delivery, or are there some escalators throughout that put us at risk?
There is not escalators that locks us in on that price.
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind. I was at that meeting, as you know, the Joint Powers meeting, and it was a long discussion about this, and I just don't see things getting cheaper. That's for darn sure, and we kind of decided that at the time, and as long as we can get it into the budget, and, we're looking at, how many housing units here in the next year and a half coming up, and working with, old equipment, and the inflation thing is getting to be terrible for everybody. But that's why my vote at that time at the Joint Powers was to recommend to the City Council that we go ahead with this project, only because I think it's just going to get worse. I already do. So, my comment.
I'm not denying need by any means. I know that it's needed. I was just, we're looking at about $111,000 increase over the last purchase, and I just wanted to know if we had anticipated that when we set the budget for this year. So, but it sounds like we have.
Well, we anticipated that it would be 750,000, so
Okay.
it is over what we estimated in the CIP.
Okay.
The good news is that that gets stretched out into 2023, 2024, so it's not as big of a shock. Yeah, price increases have just beaten up our budgets.
Is typical delivery on this type of equipment like 1 year? So is the delivery timeline really doubled? Is that?
Our last vehicle was delivered in about 13 months.
Yeah, so, okay.
And I think just one question for me. Can you talk a little bit more, Chief, about that HGAC buy program? I mean, what are the benefits to us to go that route?
Options of where you can purchase that vehicle at is one of the biggest options. They go through a competitive bidding or procurement. Matter of fact, I wrote it to get word by word. It says, all contracts available to members of the HGAC buy have been awarded by virtue of a public competitive procurement process compliant with the state statutes and procurement law. So a lot of fire departments are going to this type of buying consortium because it just takes less time to go through that whole process. It's vetted through competitive bidding process. And for us, it makes sense for us to purchase trucks out of Wyoming. They're 3 miles away.
Right.
When we bought our ladder truck and had a problem with the basket, which was about $150,000 repair, we had two options. We could go through a local builder repair shop that had to contract out cranes to lift the ladder up, or we could drive it down to Florida. That's the only options we had. So having an option of being able to run it to the manufacturer 3 miles up the road over the life of it should save money should we have any major issues with the truck.
Great, helpful, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Chief? We're ready for a motion if anyone's ready.
Mayor Bain, I move to adopt resolution 05-22-03-02, a resolution authorizing purchase of one Rosenbauer pumper complete with Rosenbauer Commander chassis and related items throughout the HGAC buy program. Excuse me.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Byström and a second from Councilmember Munson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And our motion's approved. Our next item this evening, resolution of consideration on 794 15th Street Southwest, a site plan amendment. And Nathan.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share a screen here so that we can kind of walk through this visual item. Bear with me as the screen comes up here. So this is a site plan amendment request for the property at 794 15th Street Southwest. The applicant and owner of this property is Randy Wilcox of Wilcox Properties of Forest Lake. Zoning district this property is in is the B3 Limited Industrial Business. Future land use is general business. The applicant purchased this property several years ago and has since made a number of improvements. Unfortunately did not receive site plan review permission to do the driveway improvements prior to doing them. However, he has, since this was identified, worked with staff to remedy this issue by applying for both a fence conditional use permit for the installation of a fence in the front yard, in addition to this site plan amendment request. So the screen that you see here is showing the existing conditions of the property. The driveway asphalt improvements are shown in gray here. And so in working with staff, we have identified, or staff working with the applicant here, we've identified a few different improvements which will be required to actually continue to kind of finish this job in terms of bringing it into compliance with city code. And so I'll show those to you here. We're zoomed in, you can see there's three main things that are gonna be proposed here, or that are being proposed. One is striping the parking stalls, which I believe that work has already been completed. Two is the installation of a ribbon curb, which will guide stormwater to the third thing, which is the installation of a stormwater pond. This was required by the watershed to treat the stormwater on the site. So those are the three things that are being proposed here with this amendment. Staff do recommend approval, as it appears that this will bring the site into compliance with the city code. Resolution is associated with this item, and that is 5232203. So that's all I have formally prepared for you. I'm happy to take any questions. I would note that the Planning Commission did recommend approval at their last meeting.
Thank you, Nathan. One quick note of just clarification. You noted 3 items, but the approval, are there 4 staff conditions? Is that right?
Yes, we're suggesting 4 conditions of approval.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Council, any questions for Nathan? Or any comments in general on the property?
So the point is, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of real issues with it, just that they hadn't gone through the process. Is that
Yeah,
what-
that's a good point of clarification. So actually, the city code does require a dustless surface for parking lots in this zoning district. And so actually bringing the property, he effectively brought it a little closer to conformance with the code requirements because there is a surfacing requirement with his improvements. However, there are other requirements that weren't contemplated in this initial improvement project, which are now being identified and corrected by the applicant.
Good.
Madam Mayor, based on that, what Nate just told us was, I moved to adopt resolution 0523-22-03, approving the site plan amendment requested for 794 15th Street Southwest, subject to the conditions 1 through 4 detailed by staff.
I'll second.
A motion from Councilmember Husnick and a second from Councilmember Valento. Any further discussion? Just add a quick item, a note of appreciation for everyone on working on bringing this one into compliance. Nobody likes doing this after the fact, but it's better than not doing it at all, so much appreciated. With that, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and motion carries. We are on to 7D, which is the Parkland Dedication Amendment Ordinance 707. And Nathan, this one is yours as well.
Thank you, Mayor. So this ordinance is in front of the city council. This is a ordinance regarding the parkland dedication section of city code, which is found in the subdivision ordinance. This ordinance would repeal and replace the existing language surrounding parkland dedication. I believe the council is familiar with what's being proposed here. That is, number 1, to help simplify the language in the city's ordinance. This will kind of streamline and clarify how the actual parkland dedication ordinance reads. The second piece is actually to bring the existing ordinance into compliance with state statutes. So there's really specific state statutes that really are fairly specific about what cities can do for parkland dedication. And this ordinance will bring the city's parkland dedication ordinance in line with statutory requirements and help, remove issues where there may be some potential, challenges to the city's ordinance. So with that being said, those are the two main benefits of this particular ordinance. So this one will help repeal and replace, and the next ordinance that's on the agenda this evening will be a fee schedule amendment that is related to the parkland dedication. So,
Understood. We should take these individually. Council for consideration is ordinance 707, which is the Parkland Dedication Ordinance. Any further discussion? Just note for those in the audience, this was workshopped by council at a recent meeting or discussed with council in a recent meeting. Go
sorry,
ahead.
one thing I did forget to mention for the council is that this particular ordinance 707 was reviewed by both the Planning Commission and the Parks, Lakes, and Trails Commission. With both of those commissions did recommend approval to the City Council.
Thank you. And I'm not seeing any significant changes from when we discussed in our workshop discussion.
No, there was one question that the Planning Commission had regarding what the city can do with the funds as received, but that particular question was kind of resolved by staff. So no major changes.
Council, any questions or follow-up related to the amended ordinance? All right, happy to entertain a motion if anyone is ready.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the Parkland Dedication Amendment Ordinance number 707.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion from Councilmember Husnick and a second from Councilmember Valento. Any further discussion this evening? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? And motion carries. And a follow-up to that is 7E, which is the fee schedule amendment to reflect the change in parkland dedication fees, and that's reflected in new ordinance 708. Nathan, anything further to add on?
There's really three changes to the city's fee schedule that are proposed here. One is to increase the residential per unit fee from 2,500 to 3,500. That is, again, to bring the city's fee schedule in line with what we're seeing in surrounding communities. Per the ordinance 707, these are guidelines, but staff feel that this is an accurate guideline to be setting. I guess and then the same note for the non-residential projects as well. So that's really all I have prepared.
Thank you. Council, the ordinance, page 140 of your packet for 708. Any further discussion, questions?
I'll make a motion to approve fee schedule amendment ordinance 708.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Valento and a second from Councilmember Munson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And motion carries. That ends our regular agenda portion of tonight's meeting. We are going to move on to a discussion item. Just a quick note that this is a workshop format. It is a working session of council. Anything that we talk about tonight that requires official action will come forward at a future council meeting for official vote. On tonight's discussion portion is a discussion around CSA Age 33, Everton Avenue, and our street lighting discussion. And Ryan, I think you're kicking us off.
Mayor City Council has previously discussed some of the components within the county project that's coming up for 2024 construction are going to be a discussion we want to intake in related to street lighting and kind of what we want or what we want to start focusing on in the project design and see how it fits. I mean, right now, I don't know how 16 poles would fit right now until we go through that process, but in perspective, what you have in front of you is some information that Public Works has obtained from a lighting contractor that has already done a lot of work on your existing, what's referred to them as the blue lights in the city. So the majority of the lights are obviously owned by Xcel Energy, but anything that's blue is owned and maintained by the city. So with that, you got some existing blue lights down the corridor of Broadway that just stop short of this area. So a couple of those lights would be in that small section until we would move southward down County State Aid Highway 33 or Everton Avenue. I'll just keep referring to Everton Avenue from now on, just keep it simpler. And then when we get down to the south, and if you start heading east to go over the bridge that was constructed by Washington County, you got some more blue lighting in that corridor too, where they reconstructed the road. So we got that segment that's not completed between Broadway and County State Aid Highway 32 or the bridge. And we're bringing some information forward here to make some decisions moving forward as the county's at 60% plans currently right now. In what they are proposing is 2 30-foot fiberglass Cobra heads. Basically, those would be on your steel poles, a steel gray looking pole at the mid-block pedestrian crosswalk. They feel it's very important to light that crossing, so that's why they're proposing then to split that 50-50 per their cost share policy. There's ways you could potentially reduce the costs that I've outlined in my memo. They've obtained some quotes from some electrical contractors. They're looking at approximately $15,000 for those two lights. You could reduce the pole height or look at some alternative lighting fixture styles. If we wanted to, just replace those with a blue pole, same heights, obviously there's a lot more expense with that, but that is something that would be more uniform in the corridor for lighting wise. And the other thing that Washington County is only proposing to do is basically relocate the existing intersection street lights at the southwest corner of 19th and Everton. So There won't be any new street lighting through that project as proposed by the county. You'll have the, the light bouncing off from adjacent properties, but not lit like you have Broadway or a small portion that's currently been done over the bridge area. Something I know that, when the city first developed this blue style pole was a vision that they had, and, in the Highway 61 aesthetics and water quality plan, they had that vision for the 61 corridor too. We just want to bring this forth because, one, it's obviously an expense to plan for. We have 2 years to plan for it. It's our understanding that these are, because these are our city standard light poles, fixtures. On the second page, it shows what exactly I'm talking about. So if you aren't that familiar with those poles, you can see some pictures. That we do qualify for state eligibility, state aid funding. So this would come from our construction state aid funding. Currently, we have a nice balance in there, knowing that we would have to pay for these cooperative agreement projects coming up in 24, 25, and 26. We don't know exactly what our local share is at this point with Washington County's first project, 2024, so we're trying to be conservative on that estimating. But working with the local lighting contractor, we would budget here in today's construction dollars, $250,000 to install 16 street lights and power service connection and underground conduit that would be required to connect the pole lighting. So that's the discussion we want to bring forth tonight. Obviously, it's not a yes or no now. It's something we could pursue in part of the design to see how it fits. Maybe I can only even get 14 poles in there, and then we come back for follow-up conversation on that. But I do think it would not look right if you didn't have something in between some of this. And then also knowing this is one of our major collectors and some of the increased uses that are going to be here, the pedestrian use. You can't just think of this project as a standalone project, but when it's said and done, this is going to link up to the trails up to Broadway. But then when the other county project comes in 2026, they're proposing to design a trail along that corridor too. So you're going to have more increased pedestrian traffic, and the type of housings around here, you're going to probably get some weird hours of use of that trail. So lighting might be a safety enhancements and a deterrent to some other things that you might be dealing with, the increased traffic, foot traffic. So those are just some of the things to think about. It's just, we got the estimate now too, and by the time 2024, and you're talking the type of material we're talking about, there could be some potential increases, but again, we would have time to adjust before that project was bid. If we had to pull out some of the poles and could bid it as an alternate or something like that, or reduce the number we got. But the request, I guess, here would be to start exploring further and how lighting could be implemented in the corridor, if that's something that the city council wants to support. And then knowing that if we do install these types of poles, they would be owned and maintained by the city of Forest Lake.
Brian, a quick question that comes to mind. So 16 poles, are those, I understand the design element is different, but are those additional poles? And so the overall segment from Broadway to 11th is going to be brighter, or is it just replacing and it's more of a decorative feature?
Would generally space the poles out equally over that distance, and we got the quote of 16. 2 would be approximately on the Broadway stretch to finish out that lighting on the south side of the Broadway corridor, and the other 14 would go down the whole duration of Everton. Now that the county wants to do 2 of those Cobra heads at that specific location, maybe that then allows us to space out the poles a little better, and therefore you can instantly drop to 15.
Right.
That's stuff that we won't know until we actually start playing with that into the alignment of the road, and then looking at some of the footings on the candle.
The lighting on that street today, though, that's more my question. I'm unfamiliar. It's been a while since I drove that at night. Is it, are they new lights?
The Broadway street they're 300 feet apart alternating, so they're every 150 feet, but it's divided road. So this one it's measured out at 300 feet on that one side, because it's a two-way road.
It's once, okay.
Yep. So just quick math too, I mean, something to think about is if we continue this, just quick math, if we continue it down County Road 32, that would be another 16 more. Gonna follow that trail to connect up, so you're, I mean, if you're thinking long-term, it would probably be 32 poles or $250,000 twice. If you're gonna make that decision to go here, you're probably gonna complete that loop around.
Part of the reason I ask is that I know that corridor has some places that aren't developed. It's kind of open space and can be dark in its current state. And so whatever we can do to add some lighting, I think is important. And then personally, I like the city's investment in the decorative poles and that branding that leads, and especially on our major thoroughfares. And so in my opinion, I would be in favor of continuing that investment. But open to hearing other feedback.
I think we have to be open to at least exploring the idea some more, for sure. The other question too is, you know, you talk about the maintenance and the electricity, what does that typically cost per year? Do we have any idea where we're at with that? Because that's gonna be fed into the budget too.
Yeah, they're all kind of combined because we pay for the electricity for the traffic lights too through a cooperative agreement, so the bills are kind of jammed together.
Kind of jammed together.
Yeah, so try to extrapolate that out and figure out what that costs. I mean, they're all LEDs, so it's not like when they're the sodium ones back, you know, by drastically reduced. So
Where they actually,
even for all of our lights, we're budgeting like 150,000 a year, and now we're lucky to hit 80,000 a year. So I mean,
so that cost is pretty minimal then. what you're
Excel
saying.
and Connexus and all our lights all went to LEDs, so it's 40% for sure that we've reduced. I can try to do that math, but it's difficult because they tie them in with signals, so it's.
Other points of feedback,
Well,
questions?
I tend to agree with you, Mayor B, and you know, aesthetics is important, and we hear a lot, or I do anyway, as a council member, how piecemeal we are, you know, from, you know, area to area in the city, and to have some uniformity in street lighting is, I think that's a plus. So I'd like to explore it further as well.
Points of feedback? Timing for next, like, when does the next decision point happen on
So
the question?
just it's my understanding that you guys have wanted us to explore what lighting could look like along that corridor. We could, you know, obviously start at the 16 pole and see how that kind of fits and works with the county design, and then also has some alternative numbers too, just so when we do bring something back, that we would have one or two choices to choose from. Because this is all electronically right now in Washington County's hands, timing is hard to, I don't know, you know. So we'll have to go back and forth with them a little bit here, but for sure, this would all have to come to a conclusion before the end of the year, so we can incorporate into the construction plans as this moves forward. So there's also other things that we need to start working on too with the project, the city sewer and water, things that will be completed in this project, but we have time to come back and have further discussions after we can work with the county on what this would look like, where it will fit, and have more defined answers on actual location, maybe even have a figure that would show where the lights would go if we said yes to 16, yes to 14, or et cetera, downward. So that'd be our next steps. I just can't give you a timing at this point until I can get back in touch with the county. The county knew we were talking to you tonight about this specific item, so.
At some point, it'd be helpful to hear kind of just a recap on all of the local share items related to this project and where else we are needing to make other decisions on local share things when it fits. It just.
Well, the local share items are gonna come down to our local legs, and anything with water and sewer, and the cost share or the pedestrian trail,
Pedestrian,
Right.
right.
and then lighting. So that's really what's affecting our local share. And then percent of construction then is broken down per their cost share agreement, mobilization, traffic control, erosion control, and stuff like that. So those would be the items that fall in that category. And I could share that cost share policy they have. It's a one-page reference sheet that was that's probably the easiest cost share policy I've seen in any county in the state of Minnesota, so.
Good to see. Any other requests of Ryan or questions, points of input?
How long, Ryan, is this project expected to take? I can't recall from previous discussions. Kick it off in 2024?
The construction would start in '24 and the majority of it will be completed in '24.
Okay.
One of the last project management team meetings we had, they started talking about construction staging. There are gonna be some closures on this roadway so they can do the work that they have to do with the underground utility work and storm sewer stuff. They are having to surcharge that area, that roadway section through that wetland complex. They are working with Menards on having their driveway relocated to align with the business commerce to the east of them to have a aligned intersection and give them more spacing for the turning movements coming in Menards from Broadway Avenue. So there was just a lot of things that are going to be going on with trying to maintain traffic, completing the surcharge. Basically, that's putting a bunch of weights on the ground to push down compress those soils, and then obviously all the utility work, and then still trying to maintain emergency medical, garbage, mail, and truck deliveries. So they've been working with a lot of the property owners as we got access from 19th Streets, fortunately, for a lot of these businesses too. So we're not completely cut off with the Everton Avenue project, but it'll be phased approach as a construction moves forward. So.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, that wraps up discussion portion of our agenda this evening. We will move into staff updates. And Karen.
Oh, updates.
All right. Nathan.
Nothing for me tonight.
All right. Pete.
Evening, Your Honor. Nothing for me.
I have
Patrick.
nothing, Your Honor.
All right. Abby.
Oh, wow. So puts a little pressure on me, but I first want to give a huge shout out, thanks to Bolton and Mink staff, Franny Nielsen, Nathan First, for really keeping the Planning and Zoning Department functioning since September, October. We are seeing a rise in zoning queries, a rise in building permits, and from the work they've been doing and the work that they're going to continue to do, we're pretty slim still in our department. But I just also want to let you guys know that 3 weeks in, I've been exploring all of the processes, the procedures, the forms, the ordinances, everything that is planning and zoning or touches the development review process. It's really been neglected. I'm not gonna lie. I think when the kind of conversion between the township and the city occurred, I think they took two sets of codes and just threw them together, and that's maybe what we have today. So there's gonna start to see probably minor amendments, but hopefully also some larger amendments kind of coming forward to help streamline some processes, make things a little easier, make the code clearer to understand. Logic order is a big thing, I think. So just want to let you guys know that. Also, we're just about to release the downtown plan, but before we do that, we are going to meet a special meeting this week with the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission. All of you should have gotten a notice on that, but just wanted to give you one more reminder. That's this Thursday at 5 o'clock if you can make it. So, and then we'll let you all know when the public release of anything is made so that you can share that in your social medias or your groups and all that sort of stuff.
And are we still on for the community workshop or the community open house on June 2nd?
Yes, we are. Yep, and that's the materials that we're kind of starting to finalize too.
Very good, thank you.
And by starting, I mean we're just about to release them. So.
Anything further for Abby? All right, Dave.
Just one update. Did interviews this week for replacement of Mark Monkowitz, who retired beginning of May. So I'll probably be coming back to you at that first meeting in June for higher approval. So that's my only update.
Thanks, Dave. Ryan.
Mayor, City Council, just a couple. We have finished collecting the traffic counts in the field, so we have to gather that material and submit it to MnDOT for review. If they don't approve the counts, sometimes there's variability in last time they were counted. We're required to complete a recount, so if you do see tubes out again, make sure you start back quite a few times. And then just an update on North Shore Circle. Construction notices have been handed out to the property owners. Their equipment will start mobilizing here at the end of the week. We'll start construction after the holiday weekend on that area, in the lift station area. So that's all I got, unless you got any questions.
I noted some strategy and placement of those black tubes, so.
Chief Peterson.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council members, good evening. First off, just a friendly reminder of our community, to our community members and families, that the Forest Lake Safety Camp is going to be held on June 14th, Tuesday. This is the last City Council meeting prior to that, and we are still taking applications, and they can be found at the Forest Lake Safety Camp website, or they can pick them up here at the Forest Lake Police Department. And next, I'm excited to announce that our very own Officer Megan Olstad, who has been assigned to the Forest Lake Area High School for the past 4 years as the school resource officer, was nominated and selected by the Minnesota American Legion, or for the Minnesota American Legion Law Enforcement Officer of the Year for 2021 and 2022. Last Saturday morning, Officer Megan Olstad and her family were at the what is it called? It's the American Legion's 3rd District Convention that was held for 3 days at our own American Legion, and she was awarded that recognition, and it was really exciting for her to get that in front of many of the dignitaries and delegates that were there in attendance. Just so you know, Officer Olstad is a graduate from the Forest Lake schools. She was a police officer with the Forest Lake Police Department, and she has been a police officer. I'm sorry, she was a police officer explorer with the Forest Lake Police Department, and has been with the Forest Lake Police Department as a police officer for 15 years, and she's been a school resource officer for 6 years. And she was selected as the Law Enforcement Officer of the Year because of her work in the schools and with juveniles over these years. So I just want to recognize her publicly and thank her for her dedication to the Forest Lake Police Department. Other than that, I don't have anything else for you unless you have questions for me.
Excellent. Congratulations to Officer Olstad. Much deserved. We're lucky to have her. God bless. Chief Newman.
Mayor, members of the council, no updates.
Very good. Kim.
No updates, thank you.
All right. And Kevin, Mike's coming down the line.
Mayor, City Council, a couple updates from finance. The city did receive recently their 2020 award for Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is an award that's given out for government entities that go beyond the minimum GASB requirements to provide the information needed for users of the financial statements to be able to get the information they need from those. So that's a very good award for the city to receive. And then update on 2021, I confirmed with our auditors that I will be getting the draft of the statements by the end of the week, hopefully. We're still going to probably be doing that June 27th council meeting to present, based on the fact that even though the numbers are finalized, just to pull all that together and get all those required notes and statements together does take a lot of time and review to ensure accuracy. But with that said, we can start relying on what numbers are presented in there, so we can start our analysis moving forward into 2023.
Thank you, Kevin. And we'll move on to council updates, and we'll start with Councilmember Munson
No update tonight.
and Councilmember Byström.
Just one multifaceted here, I guess. I attended the YMCA board meeting last week, and they did a bike distribution within the community, and they had 96 total bikes to distribute, and they gave away 70 bikes to over 30 local families within the community. Coming up on June 11th, 2022 is the American Heroes Open House at the Forest Lake Y. All military branches of service to include active duty, guard, and reserves, veterans and family members are invited. Hours are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's just a show of appreciation, commitment, and support from the Y of the North to our military and veterans. And then one other thing, the Y has once again launched their Get Ready for Summer program. Teens are able to enjoy the Y for free during the summer months. There are some limitations to the number of free passes that they will, that they have capacity for, but people that are interested in that should really sign up now. So it's a great program and a great way to keep our young people busy.
Councilmember Husnick.
Thank you. I attended the school board meeting that took place last Thursday evening. No, excuse me. Yeah, it was last Thursday, that's what it was. But it was a very short meeting, and they only had a couple resolution things to take care of, and that was pretty much it. Other than that, the other thing I mentioned tonight, when Chief Nguyen was talking, that we had attended the Joint Powers Board. When was it? It was a couple weeks ago anyways, so everybody knows what happened there, so that's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Councilmember Valento.
No updates.
Just a quick update for me, just a quick reminder, so we are on the cycle where our June meetings are towards the end of the month, so we will be here, we don't have a council meeting for 3 weeks. Our next meeting will be June 13th. And just a reminder that we do have the community open house for the downtown plan on June 2nd. So be watching for those materials, and let's promote that event, and it's really good update for those who have been part of the process, and it's also a great introduction to those who maybe have not been part of the process, and fabulous opportunity for some feedback as we start kind of working through the wind down phase of going through any adjustments we might need to make based on feedback that we receive, as well as, just review with our boards, commissions, and kind of ultimately bringing this back to council for approval. So we are on a nice path, and I would say we're deep into the fourth quarter, and it'd be good to get lots of feedback and input as we are working to close out the first part of this planning process. With that, that is the end of our planned agenda for this evening, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion, and we'll take a second from Councilmember Munson. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and we're adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night.